Welcome to episode 46 of the Mountain Mantras Wellness and Life Lessons podcast. This podcast aims to inspire you with information to allow you to lead your most productive, happy, and healthy life. Hi, I'm your host, Kathryn Kemp Guylay. Action items from this podcast are recapped into mantras that you can implement into your daily life. Today's guest is DeMaria, an integrative psychologist, 3-time best-selling author, poet, speaker, and 4-time Grammy-nominated recording artist. Michael was also a contributing musician, poet, composer, so much on the Grammy-winning children's album, All About Bullies, Big and Small. Michael is a longtime yoga and meditation teacher and is the author and creator of the Peace Within process for Integrative Wellness. His passion and mission is helping others to find inner peace in our busy, stressed, and overworked lives. I know you'll find some inner peace from our discussion and mantras today. For show notes and a link to Dr. Maria's free giveaway, 3 Breaths to De-Stress, go to the show notes page at makewellnessfun.com/destress. All one word, DESTRESS. Now on to the interview.
I like to say I'm bringing the heart and soul of mindfulness practice to the listeners, to the audiences out there. Most everyone today knows that meditation and mindfulness are helpful, and scientific studies have proven this over and over again. But a lot of people have some misunderstandings about really what it is. And to me, some of these misunderstandings go to our difficulty as a Western culture trying to adapt some of these longer practices in the East. And of course, we're both avid yogi practitioners. And what happens oftentimes is some of the subtlety, and for me, the subtlety is the deep heart of practice. The word mindfulness in the Chinese and Japanese characters for it actually more accurately would be translated as heart, mind, now. That's very different than the word mindfulness, right? I mean, heart, mind, now, with hyphens between them, Kathryn. Isn't that powerful?
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And that to me is, the accurate word would actually be more appropriately translated as heartful mindfulness or mindful heartfulness. And the other piece I bring to it is what I like to talk about as soulfulness. That a lot of meditation, mindfulness practice, people kind of are pretty intellectual. They're kind of in their heads, which is the problem. Our Western culture, we're lost in thought. We've gone so far as even to call it the thinking disease, and I think everybody out there could identify with this. When I have people begin to meditate, and they quiet their minds or attempt to, they say, I can't do this, Michael. I feel like I'm, locked in a phone booth with a crazy person because my thoughts are just running wild. And so oftentimes they're trying these practices, but realizing that oftentimes if we bring the breath into the body and into the heart, I often say, a warm heart creates a peaceful mind. And many times people are trying to quiet their minds before they've really quieted their hearts, or at least bring themselves into the heart. And sometimes, I teach these meditation classes locally, Kathryn. A lot of people, the first time they come, they're surprised. Tears will come. And they'll come up to me afterwards and say, gee, Michael, I must be doing something wrong because I cried through the whole meditation. And I said, no, this is exactly why you've been avoiding standing still and just quieting yourself, because there's emotion you're running from. So we must honor the heart. And this is, to me, the heart and soul of mindfulness meditation is what I try to bring to the practice that's unique.
Okay, you've already given some incredible mantras, and I'm going to summarize them because they're powerful enough that they need to be repeated. So mantra number 1 is that mindfulness can be powerfully explained as heart, mind, and now. And that mindfulness really needs to start with a heart. And I want to also just say on this idea, let's actually make this mantra number 2, is that we have a thinking disease that we need to solve before we can get into that mindfulness state. And so what it really sounds like, if we've got this issue with our minds being like in control, or it's overworking, it's overpowering our hearts. We need to find ways to connect again with our body and with our hearts. So what are a few ways, just maybe some simple, and I know you're big on micro meditations, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but these are sort of micro exercises that a listener can be maybe even driving their car right now and go, okay, I want to feel my heart again. What would be some suggestions that you would give to that listener?
Beautiful. So this one is really powerful. It's something I use in every meditation practice, is very simple gratitude for two of our greatest gifts that are miracles that we take for granted every day, Kathryn, and that is the miracle of seeing and the miracle of hearing. So what I often do is have people drop into their heart and just bring their awareness to the heart center of the chest. And just, even if they're there driving right now, just say quietly to themselves, thank you for my eyes that I can see. Thank you for my eyes that I can see. And just really being aware of everything you're seeing in your visual environment, and just imagining what this moment would be like without your eyes. And we take this for granted. It's an extraordinary miracle, and there are people out there who don't have this miracle. But we take that incredible, precious, it's so close to us, we forget about it. So the first one I tell people is gratitude for seeing. And the next one is also, thank you for my ears that I can hear. We couldn't be having this conversation, Kathryn, we from 1,000 miles away from each other. But even if we were if it was in the studio, the miracle of hearing and being heard. So this real preciousness of appreciation for seeing and hearing. And I go so far as to even say, to even deepen the warmth of the heart, imagine some of your most beautiful sights you've seen in your life and some of the most beautiful sounds you've heard in your life. A mountain. I was looking, I was posting this on my Facebook page that I was going to be interviewed, and I saw it come up with those beautiful snow-capped mountains with the sun filtering through. So feeling a sense of gratitude for some of the favorite things that you've seen, and then also think about the face like of a beloved child or a beloved partner, or a pet. And then hearing, what are some of your favorite sounds? The sounds of songbirds, the sound of the beach, the sound of the wind whispering through the quaking aspens. Just imagine what your life would have been like without seeing and hearing those things. And if there's a listener out there who doesn't feel their heart warmed by that, I'm concerned. So gratitude for seeing, gratitude for hearing are really wonderful ways to bring yourself into the now in a heart-based way.
And I'm going to, with mantra number 3, I'm going to broaden that to all of our senses. So mantra number 3 is that our senses can be a great pathway to connect with gratitude and mindfulness. So if somebody just happens to be like a big, nose person, like they love aromas, and that would be me. Like I absolutely, like right before I came into the studio, I put on a little bit of this essential oil. It's called Raven, and a local integrative, holistic medical practitioner in town gave it to me, and she said, "Oh, it's just I don't even know what's in it. It's just a soothing." It's a soothing scent to me, and so I am grateful to that. But I think the senses, whether it's smelling, seeing, hearing, tasting, feeling that, the touch of something, those are great ways to bring us into our body, bring us into our hearts. So that's and it's such an easy one. So folks listening, don't think this is a climbing a mountain experience. This is just a coasting down the hill, easy way to connect. Dr. DeMaria, do you have another idea for listeners as far as connecting to that heart? Because I think it's so important.
Yes. Well, one thing that can also really be a benefit is coming to that mantra of the thinking disease. I actually have a mantra in the book. I think you know it, and it's the thing that I teach universally. And so I have people, clients, students come back years later and say, this one mantra changed their life. So are you and the listeners ready to hear it?
Oh, I'm so ready. You should see
All
the
right.
copy of your book in front of me. I read it often in the bathtub. And so my daughter
Oh,
was making fun of me as I was leaving the house. She's like, "You really love that book, Mom." I mean, it's
oh, that's
dog-eared.
so
I've wrote in the margins. It's got a little bit of like water warp because I was, enjoying it in the bathtub. But anyway, it's a book that I love. And so whatever you're going to remind me about this, I can't wait.
fantastic, and that really touches my heart. So thank you, Kathryn. So here it is, the mantra that will change your life. I am not my thoughts. My thoughts are not reality. I'll say that 2 more times, and you can say it with me if you like. I am not my thoughts. My thoughts
My thoughts
are not reality.
are not reality. Ooh. Okay,
So,
let's say it one more time.
yes,
I am
together.
Not, okay.
Not
I
my,
am not
my thoughts.
My
My thoughts are not reality.
Okay, mantra number 4, listeners. Did you get it? Okay, let's dive into that because that's deep.
Very deep. There's so many layers to it. So many layers. So the first part, most people don't have an issue with. I'm not my thoughts. Well, let me. It's a sudden kind of aha for most people. Like most people intuitively get it. The rational mind will resist it, but this is a central problem in everyone I deal with. If I can get people to begin to step back from their thoughts, huge things begin to happen, because meditation is not about stopping thoughts. It's a common myth. It is absolutely not the case. Meditation is stepping back from your thoughts. You couldn't stop thinking if you tried. It would be like trying to stop a river from flowing. Thoughts are going to be generated, but we're going to really cultivate a welcoming, open, receptive attitude towards what's arising in our awareness. So we are not our thoughts, but the awareness of our thoughts passing through our mind, like clouds floating by or boats floating down a river. And this is incredibly powerful because all of a sudden you can then begin to basically break out of the trance of your thinking, the thinking disease. Kathryn, it's estimated that we have 30 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of them are the exact same ones you had yesterday. This is not freedom. This is
say
condition.
That number again. How many thoughts?
30 to 60,000 thoughts a day.
Wow.
And 90% of them are the same as you had yesterday. So this is not you. This is primarily conditioned thinking from a lifetime of exposure to media, parents, teaching. And what happens is we really take these thoughts to be us. Now, a high-performance athlete or people who've been meditating a long time may get that down to as low as 1,500 thoughts a day. You're talking about a lot of emptiness and openness and presence and just being really where you are. And it opens up your creativity. It opens up your productivity. So it's an incredible, to train your mind is part of what's happening with meditation. And we're able to begin to reduce that thinking disease. Thinking is a great tool, but it's a terrible master. And this tool has taken over. So that's the first part of the mantra. Does that make sense?
It does. And, living in this community in Sun Valley where we have so many high-performing athletes and Olympic athletes, that is exactly what I've heard, is that they tend to have fewer thoughts, that they have sort of wrestled that monkey mind to the ground and succeeded. So let's get to the second part of that mantra, and then I want to explore further about how we can wrestle successfully with our monkey minds.
Yes, beautiful. So the second one, people really begin to resist a bit, or the conscious mind resists a bit more than the first, which is, my thoughts are not reality. I get so much pushback on this one. If I can even convince people they're not their thoughts, but when I start saying they're not reality, they really push back, because it's like, what do you mean? I mean, if I'm in pain or I'm angry about this, or this happened, why is that not reality? I say, all thoughts are a commentary on reality. They are not reality. What we are seeing, feeling, touching, tasting, hearing, what is present in the moment. Thoughts are always taking us, Kathryn, into the past or the future. 90% of the time we are anxious about the future and regretting the past. And we play these loops over and over again, and we're not present. So by definition, thoughts are not reality in the present moment. They are commentary on reality. And when you realize this, you begin to track and see this self-talk and this narration and commentary. But we've taken it to be so present that we take it to be reality. So it's a virtual reality. It's relatively real, but it's a commentary on reality. And it took us years to develop that. For years, as children and toddlers, we were just fully present. But the more that you get lost in thought and languaged, then you begin to take the commentary, your commentary, which is full of biases and conditioning, to be reality. And that's a huge break point when people realize that they can break free of this. It's like it's actually filtering out reality. It's keeping you from this incredibly vibrant, amazing, light sound show that is reality, which is beyond any conceptualization or commentary about it. And this is where we experience, like when you're in flow states, when we're skiing or when we're dancing or when I'm playing music, I'm in that flow and there are no thoughts. I am immersed in this kind of energetic, fluid, flowing, joyous, blissful space. That's reality.
Okay, and so I am going to take a leap of faith on behalf of the listeners and say that we are going to accept that second part, which is that our thoughts are not reality. Because I'm with you. I'm with you on that whole skiing thing. I was just thinking about how when I'm up on the mountain and I'm engaging with my senses and the wind and the beautiful, blue sky and the light on the mountains, I tend to feel very spaciousness, the spaciousness in my mind. And guess what happens? That's when the best ideas tend to pop in.
Yes,
right?
Yes, exactly.
So we're going to take that leap of faith, but we need to understand, folks, that the chattering mind, that the monkey mind, as I talked about it before, Michael has just explained that that's usually the past, it's usually the future, and it's not your best idea. So how do we start to silence that little monkey mind that beats around in there?
Yes, no, so true. The drunken monkey is often, the drunken monkey is what many Asian practitioners call it in Zen meditation. They call it the drunken monkey. And it does feel that way. That's the madman in the phone booth you feel you're trapped in when you begin to try to quiet your mind. So the foundation of all meditation, Kathryn, for me, and actually this is pretty universally accepted, is breath work. And I actually separate out breath work in the book from meditation because I think of it as ground training, kind of like that. Before you go up on the mountain, you're gonna do your strengthen your quads during some pre-season training, right? So kind of the groundwork you're going to do with meditation. I really try to get people to begin to breathe properly and get to know their breath and help them be in their body. So the first thing, and the 3 breaths to de-stress is one of my favorites, and it's something we can do together and with the listeners. And it's incredibly powerful, and it's a wonderful way to begin to quiet that monkey mind. And I really came across this because in my music, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, but I'm known for the native flutes that I play from around the world. And as a flute player, you do a lot of breath work. And I do this simple warm-up. I'll take one note, and I'll play that note accentuating the out-breath as long as I can until there's no air left. And then I try to push out a little bit more beyond where I think I can go. And then I take a deep diaphragmatic breath. This is diaphragmatic means a belly breath. We're breathing nice and deep from the belly. If you're breathing appropriately, you're breathing from the diaphragm and the belly. And we all come in breathing this way, Kathryn. I mean, if you see an infant breathe, the little belly goes up and down, up and down. Parents will really get this. But when we get into, it's so adorable. And they're nice, deep breaths, and their whole body is just released and relaxed. When we get into school age, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and you're sitting in those desks and you start working from your head, that's when we begin to shallow breathe from the chest. When we shallow breathe from the chest, a third of the oxygen in our lungs, Kathryn, are never being expelled. So we're not getting a full breath, and when we shallow breathe, we also increase respiration. And increased respiration is coordinated and correlated with all kinds of long-term illness and disease and ill health. So what we're wanting to do is actually reducing respiration below 12 breaths a minute really begins to help, and you can get this down to 4 to 8 breaths a minute when you're doing these practices.
Wow.
So the 3 breaths, it's incredible, and the studies are really fascinating on what happens when we decrease respiration. Above 12 breaths a minute, you're kicking in the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, and it boosts in cortisol and adrenaline, and people kind of stay in this hyper space because they're shallow breathing and over respirating. Below 12, especially below like 8 or 10, you're kicking in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. Immediately, you're beginning to allow the entire body to relax. So I'm going to share with you and all the listeners, we can do this with 3 breaths, less than probably 30 seconds. So what we're going to do is breathe in nice and deep from the belly as much as we can. We're going to breathe out, and I want you to breathe out almost like you imagine you're pursing your lips and playing a flute. And when you do it, I want you to breathe all out, accentuating the out-breath, and then going as far as you can. When you think you can't breathe out any further, I want you to go, ha, kind of like a little ha, just a little more upward thrust of the diaphragm to get any last stagnant air out. So you ready to do this with me?
I just did it, and I was like, okay, let me try this, and it's hard. It's hard to
It
push
is
all
hard.
that out. Okay,
It is.
I want to do it with you.
Okay, great. So let's breathe in nice and deep. Breathe out, purse your lips. And then when you feel you can't breathe out anymore, go, Good. Now breathe in again, nice and deep. Breathe out, pursing your lips as far as you can go. When you feel you can't breathe out anymore, breathe out a little more. One more time, breathing in nice and deep. Breathe out, pursed lips. Feel you can't breathe out anymore, a little more.
Okay, first of all, I'm glad I have a pop filter on this mic.
Yes.
Second of all, I am so much more present. Let me tell you, when I am doing the show, I have to be a clock watcher, right?
Sure.
And I just was like, I don't care. We'll get to the break when we get to the break. You know, I'm just so much more here thanks to 3 breaths.
Well, you know, I notice these things, but your voice has come down a little bit, and deeper, rounder, more resonant, because we come inside of ourselves and we're speaking and from that deeper place inside. And if the listeners can even just notice how they feel in their bodies after doing that, and there's usually even kind of a natural high that you feel, a little bit more buoyant, a little bit faster, more spacious. And I know you have to do a break, so I'm also watching the just making sure we have time. But that's I do that all day long, Kathryn, whenever I remember.
I love it. And you know what I'm going to do? I have a staff retreat tomorrow, and that's how we're going to start it off. You know, because a lot of times there are, you know, icebreaker warm-ups and things like that, but why not have this, 3 breaths to de-stress? And listeners, we will take a break, but I'm just going to give you a little teaser. And first of all, I'm going to give you a gift from Dr. DeMaria. When you go to the show notes, which will be up within a few hours, that they will be at makewellnessfun.com, and then it's /de-stress. Isn't that perfect? So it's makewellnessfun.com/de-stress. So it's all together, DESTRESS. And there is this beautiful, and I have to say, you have such great aesthetics as far as how you put everything together. Dr. DeMaria, it's a 3 breaths to distress PDF, and it kind of walks you through in greater detail what we just did. And so it's a free gift to you, so that I wanted to tell everybody about before the break. But the teaser for the break that I want to make sure people stick around for is I'm going to sort of bare a little bit of my soul in terms of what came out in me and in our family when I read Dr. DeMaria's book, Peace Within. It was amazing how it really changed our family dynamic, and I can't wait to share the story with you because I don't think I've told you this, and we'll share it with the listeners at the same time. But it's amazing how much a book can change one's life. So another thing I'll do, you're going to laugh, if you're on Instagram, listeners, and you're not driving because you can't be doing that while you're driving, I'm going to post a picture during the break because I have his book with me in the studio, and you can see how loved this book is. I highly recommend it. So if you want to check out this picture of a very loved book, it's called Peace Within, A Guide to Awakening. It's clear your mind, open your heart, embrace your soul, and heal your life. And I'll tell listeners after the break how it changed my life. But stay with us. Don't go away. We will be right back. And now a word from our sponsors. For you, the listeners of Mountain Mantras podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to check out their service. What the heck is Audible? It is Amazon's company for distributing audiobooks. It is a way for you, my dear listeners, to experience audiobooks on your phone or other devices while you are otherwise taking your walks, hikes, or even doing the dishes. Expand your possibilities and educational opportunities by signing up with Audible. By following this link, audibletrial.com/mountain mantras, it's all one word, you will get a free 30-day trial along with your choice of a free audiobook. Check it out. Get informed, get educated, have fun. Again, the link is audibletrial.com/mountain mantras. Now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Mountain Mantras Show. It's Kathryn Kemp Guylay again, and we have Dr. Michael DeMaria on the line with us. He is calling in from Florida, from his own beautiful location, and we spent the first half of the show really getting into some incredible advice for listeners on how you can find inner peace and how you can survive and thrive in this world of busyness, activity, and overwhelm. And we are going to put up 5 mantras that we already shared with listeners. So if you missed a little bit of the show, don't worry. Go to makewellnessfun.com, and under podcasts, right at the top, you will see a beautiful picture of Dr. DeMaria and some more information about his practice. And I want to get into that, Michael, on this second half, but I promised listeners that I would share a very personal story that came about from reading your book. Do you want to hear it?
Love to, and yes, you have not shared this with me yet, so you've teased me too.
Okay, and there's 2 things that were huge. The first one is just a little thing, but it was huge, and I use this all the time now with my kids because they're teens, right? And so
Right.
Imagine why this is so powerful. No mistakes, only lessons. And so my daughter got her first ticket when she, in driving, she's 16 years old. We had a long discussion about that. That helped me to understand, to integrate that this wasn't about punishment. It seemed like a mistake, but really the most important thing was the lesson that came out of it.
Yes.
That's, just one sort of scratching the surface example. Here is the big one. So as I was reading your book, it was like, oh my gosh, it just hit me. It was, definitely a visceral experience of why have I not figured this out before so I can teach this to my kids. Okay, and here's what it is. In your book, you say that people compare their inner world to everyone else's exterior world. Now, again, I have 2 teenage kids. And when I sat down and I've integrated this into stories and dinner conversations and all kinds of incredible lessons that I've given them, but think about how they're looking at this as a teenager. Like everybody looks happy and peppy and put together. And the reality is I remember being a teenager, you have so little confidence. You're always worried about what people are thinking about you. You don't feel right in your own skin. You're changing so much. Your clothes don't fit. Like it's such a struggle. And
Amen.
to read that, and for me to tell them and to say, see, look, adults are like this. And for me to remind myself that I do the same thing too. When I'm feeling completely a wreck inside and I walk down the street and I see everybody looking all polished and neat and organized, it makes me feel terrible. And I realize that it's the wrong comparison. Whenever you're comparing apples to oranges, it's going to get messed up. So thank you. It has changed my life. And it's really changed the way that my kids, my teens, can look at themselves and realize that when they're comparing their inner world to everyone else's exteriors, it's not really real.
Beautiful. Oh, that just touches my heart in so many levels and layers, Kathryn, and it's very powerful, and I want to say so much more about that, but I first want to say what's so interesting, and for those who may not know you personally, but meeting you in New York, you're just come across as, you're just so together. We actually, you're heading to a yoga class, and you're just where, even when when we met, that's what's so interesting is, even our outsides, and I know people do that, we do that all the time, and thank you for being so sharing your insides with us. I mean, that's exactly it. And that's what I try to do, of course, in the book, is I try to bare my soul, bare my heart. And what's interesting is, or I should say tragic, actually, is we live in a extroverted, thinking, egocentric, materialistic culture. And so the premium in our culture is based upon hiding our vulnerability, hiding our inner world, because we basically are looking at surfaces and externals, because that's what our culture values. We're not a culture of, it's shifting and changing. There's kind of, a movement towards awareness and understanding that there is an inner world that's, we have pretty much almost destroyed or gotten rid of it with our very materialistic approach, where traditional cultures, understood there was a great difference. And even a practice, you can do, and I invite when I would do deeper work with people individually and couples work or families work is, imagine closing your eyes and looking at the other person's soul. Can we see the soul in the person? Because we tend to only look at these externals, and we hide the vulnerability, which is really where intimacy means in it together, or into me see. And it really, one advantage for me as a practicing therapist for 30 years, I've seen, I've had people come in, the surgeons, the doctors, the CEOs, the all of the together people who come into my office and all of a sudden shed their tears and show their vulnerability and say, nobody really knows what's going on inside, or it's the dentist who all of a sudden goes and commits suicide on the weekend, has never talked about the insides because he never got that one piece of information that can change somebody's life. So I am on a bit of a mission to help people know you are not alone. Life is difficult. We all suffer. We all struggle. We all have self-doubt. And actually, though, the beautiful thing is when we share our vulnerability like you just did, and when we do open up our insides, it's incredible how freeing and empowering that is. And that actually creates genuine community and genuine intimacy. And just as an aside, one last thing I'll say about that is I really love working with people who've been in 12-step programs, whether it's Alcoholics Anonymous or OA or NA or CODA. What's interesting, it's kind of countercultural because it's one of the few things in our culture where you get rewarded for being a mess. Inside, you come in, you talk about your vulnerabilities, and there's like a real premium on sharing your insides and leaving your ego at the door. And in a lot of that's, the work I've done with Native American healers, that was all part of it, is check your ego at the door. When we sit down to talk, let's talk heart to heart, soul to soul, which means authentically, and really show our insides. And one way of thinking about authenticity is when our outsides are congruent with our insides, when our outer expression is as congruent with our inner world as possible. And you feel that and you see that when you're with somebody who's congruent that way and authentic, when the inner and outer are in balance. but we don't support that in our culture. And so it's a challenge. And that's part of what you're doing with Mountain Mantras and the books you're writing. And because you naturally you're a deeply authentic person. That's I loved connecting and continuing our connection this way, because that's what our world needs, this kind of dialogue and this kind of conversation.
And it's exactly what you're doing. I mean, as far as all the books that you've written, you've even had a role in a Grammy-winning children's song about bullying. I mean, it's amazing all the things you're doing. And I know you have sort of a boutique practice for one-on-one folks, and you're sort of in this phase right now of, okay, it's time to really branch out and reach a lot of people because the world needs this information. I don't know which of the mantras will connect with, each of the listeners. They'll all connect in a different way. But the point is, everybody needs every single one of these messages, and they might make sense 1 minute, not the next, and then maybe they hear it another way, and then it makes sense. So what you're doing is you're packaging it in different ways. You've got this book, and by the way, folks, seriously, Peace Within is a great read. So if you want to check out the picture I put up on Instagram, it shows my well-worn copy of it. It's a beautiful book that will change your life, but this is just part of Dr. DeMaria's work. You've also got your boutique practice. You also have this online course that you're putting together. You have a beautiful YouTube channel. I mean, how can we kind of start to give listeners a taste of maybe if they just want to put their toe in the water, how they might learn more about you and connect with you? And even watching a couple of videos, I think, can be helpful for people.
Well, thank you, Kathryn, for everything you said and for sharing that. One thing I love to have people, it's a great beginning, and I did it quite a few years ago, but it still holds up. I get comments from people all over the world. I have what I call a 7x7 meditation challenge, and it's on my YouTube channel. If you can put Michael DeMaria YouTube or 7x7 meditation challenge, or it's actually youtube.com/M for Michael, B for Brandt, my middle name, DeMaria. But the 7x7 meditation challenge is basically committing to 7 minutes a day for 7 days and meditating. And I guide you through it. I guide each person through that 7-minute meditation. It's a real somatic, sensory-based meditation, which beginning meditators really find helpful. It really helps you embody the meditation practice, bring yourself into the heart, mind, now, which was our first mantra today. I also have what I call Mindful Moments with Michael on that YouTube channel, which are little 2-minute segments of everything from mindful cooking to mindful biking to mindful conversation. And then there's also, you can check out more detail and download the first chapter of Peace Within on at the website alldaypeace.com, alldaypeace.com. You can also find it on Amazon. And then my main website is michaeldemaria.com, michaeldemaria.com. And there you can really, there's a lot of resources on the site. And on Amazon, all my music and books are on Amazon. All my music's on iTunes and most all Spotify, Pandora. You can make a Michael Brandt DeMaria Pandora station and get nice, relaxing, meditative, healing music all day long.
Oh, I didn't know about that one.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I'm going to have to get that.
Yeah, and it's Michael Brandt, B-R-A-N-T is my middle name. So in my music world, I go by Michael Brandt DeMaria. There's a long story behind that, but it will probably come up Michael DeMaria, but you'll have more choices on Pandora if you put Michael Brandt DeMaria as a Pandora station. Yes, it's really fun. I get people, this touches my heart when they'll send little links, and my music pops up a lot on the yoga channel and the meditation channels on Pandora and others.
Oh, how fun. Guess what I'm going to be cooking my dinner to tonight?
Oh, that's so sweet. So sweet, Kathryn. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to make this into sort of a fun little metaphor for people. If they've been listening and they want to put their toe into the water about what you're doing in your incredible work, they could just put their toe in the water by downloading that one little resource, that 3 breaths to de-stress, okay? If they want to maybe put their foot in, they can, and I will put for sure the links to the YouTube channel and the other things that you mentioned. They can do that 7x7 challenge, and that's the foot in the water. The leg would be maybe to download the chapter and actually get the book. You can jump in to the whole experience with the website, alldaypeace.com. But let's also talk about your course, because I'm so excited for it. What's the timing on that, and how can we get information about this online course that you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this, Kathryn. So it launches March 10th. This is basically the distillation of my last 30 years of practice. I've run a 6-month to a year waiting list for probably 5 years now. And, my meditation classes are usually very, very full. So I ask myself, what do I say over and over again? What are the things, the common themes, and what would it be like to package everything to where you probably have to be in therapy with me for 3 years to hear everything that I put into this program? It's basically, Peace Within is the textbook, but the online program takes it much deeper. I'm only releasing it twice a year, so it's like I'm designed it like a college course, and I've taught undergrad and graduate courses for 25, 30 years. So I really wanted to make it very accessible. They're very high quality videos, videoed in a professional studio with 4 cameras, so it's very engaging. And I walk the people through, so you'll have a cohort of other people working through this program with you, private Facebook group, there'll be question-answer call-ins every few weeks. And you can do it at your own pace, but it's basically designed to do over like a 3-month period. And you could extend it to 6 months, but the question-answer periods will probably be within that first 3 to 4 months. And I've done this locally with people in the past, and just was so wonderful that I kept having people from other areas of the country being really interested. So I wanted to make something that was going to be available, and the class does have a limit size. And also, you get a certificate of completion. It's really training also if you ever wanted to. It's called the Peace Within Process for Integrative Wellness. And so it's really taking the information in the book to the next level. And for those who may want to begin to teach even the Peace Within process to others, and it's also the prerequisite to do the meditation teacher training that I teach, which is a much more engaging kind of personal practicum where people are actually working with other people and they're checking in with me as they're beginning to guide others in these practices. So it's really the distillation of my life's work. I'm so excited to share it with people, and the response so far has been wonderful. People can get on the wait list at thepeaceanswer.com, thepeaceanswer.com, and that's the early bird notification list for the online program. But I'm actually kicking it off with a free concert here that will be streamed live on the internet as well on Facebook. So you guys can check in even from Sun Valley and listen to the concert and as we kick it off. And that whole weekend there's a holistic health expo here on the Gulf Coast. I'll be presenting it that weekend. So the whole weekend of March 10th, 11th, 12th will be the big kickoff for the online program.
That is so exciting. And that's actually just around the corner. Like, it's amazing how fast, at least I feel like 2017 is already flying by. It's like we're charging into this amazing year. And I'm going to kind of recap again for listeners that, again, I'm using it sort of metaphor of putting the toe in the water, the foot, the leg, or jumping in, full force with all the tools here that we've been talking about. But I'd love to close with a story because, we're talking about these putting your toe in the water or jumping in. It is a commitment, and it's something that a listener, needs to decide that they need to dedicate time and energy, their talent, their resources to. And so it's so powerful, I think, as a motivational factor to kind of hear a story of how this can be so transformational. So I wanted to kind of set you up for that. But again, listeners, I just wanted to recap some of the ways that you can further engage, because I always feel like these podcasts, these interviews are a way to start a conversation, and you might just fall in love with somebody and want to know more about them. So again, I'm going to give you the website for this course. It sounds amazing, peaceanswer.com, and I will put up on the show notes page, which is going to be at makewellnessfun.com under podcast. I will put the links to all the different ways that you can start to get engaged with Dr. DeMaria's work. It is really a privilege to have him on the show. I mean, he has really already been widely acclaimed and, has, we're a small community radio station here. He's been on the big boys and girls. So it's just such an honor to have his attention here. And so I am so excited to hear whatever story, Dr. DeMaria, you have chosen to tell the listeners today about why take a further step, why find inner peace. What are some of the benefits?
Well, this is the central story of peace within, and the inspiration came from a very dark time when we had a hurricane come through our neighborhood, 15-foot wall of water that pretty much washed away the entire neighborhood. And my daughter, who was in her senior year of high school at the time, and my wife and I literally had to move into the back of my office for 2 years. And also I had a knee and back injury, and that really triggered some childhood PTSD, some trauma I had a number of surgeries as a child. And I was a successful therapist. I had been an author. I had released one album. Didn't have a Grammy nomination yet, but from all outward appearances, from all the external signs of people, would just say, Dr. DeMaria, such the image of success, pillar of the community, family man, blah, blah, blah. I was lost, and I was so lost I was even suicidal during that time. And I literally had to carry a picture of my daughter in my pocket to remind myself why I couldn't do that. And I think it's really important to talk about because, just here locally, we have a large military presence, and there are 22 vets that commit suicide every day. I've seen incredible professionals that everybody thought, we had a new doctor here in town who recently committed suicide, and because they didn't have any outlet to talk about the pain they were in. And for me, it was really a reminder and wake-up call that there was something deeper I had to access. And I realized a big part of that was I had taught meditation, mindfulness, and yoga, but I had to come to some deeper place inside. And a big part of that was the heart and soul, because you're sitting there and trying to meditate and your heart is breaking. You have to go to some place deeper. And that's why I have a lot of journaling exercises in here. I have a lot of how to deal with the dark, difficult emotions, which a lot of mindfulness meditation doesn't. Mindfulness meditation should not be giving you strategies to repress and deny feelings. And that's what some people do. So this whole journey of peace within, that's why it's clear your mind, open your heart, embrace your soul, and heal your life. Because the other part of me that was hurting Kathryn was I wasn't living fully my authentic life. My first love was music, and I had my first album come out at 42, but I really wasn't devoting. I was living off of scraps of my music as opposed to having like a full course dinner. And I kept asking myself, what are those things I tell myself that I'm going to do someday? And that year I committed to changing my entire life to begin doing everything. Because I felt like I had a terminal disease, so I imagined if I only had a year to live, what would I do? And I started writing and sharing my poetry. I had boxes of poetry. I never felt the courage to share my poetry, and now I'm on my third book of poetry I'm working on. I wrote 3 plays in the next 3 years. I had 3 of them produced, and I had this huge amount of creative outpouring that came out of that pain. So a lot of what's in here, I have this whole section we haven't even talked about of what is your soul's purpose on the planet. I realized I had to have a why that went deeper and broader and vaster than the one I was living, which was a bit superficial on the surface. So I really had to come to grips with why I was on the planet and why I was doing what I was doing. And literally it came to a place where it wasn't a suicide I needed, but an ego side. I needed to allow my ego to die and who I thought I was, so I could be born and birthed into who I really came to the planet to be. And so this is hard-won wisdom. These are not Band-Aids in this book. If it's really more for the serious seeker who's interested in going into the depths and finding out who they really are and really showing up. But it's also built, as you know, starting with simple practices that are very accessible, and then for those who want to go deeper, can go deeper, it's there for you. So that is the rest of the story, Kathryn.
Well, gosh, that was so powerful. I actually did not mean for you to necessarily have to tell your story, but I think it's the best one you could have chosen. And right on the back of the book, where it talks about, from suicidal despair to becoming a 4-time Grammy-nominated recording artist, Dr. DeMaria shares his journey with courage, compassion, and wisdom. And there's this, road back to sanity and the process that's shared that helps people find, and I love this part, the ocean of peace that lies within each of us. And so what it really is about is, like, we're all walking around with these fake smiles on our face and not being authentic. Right?
Amen. That's it.
So this is, like you said, for the serious seeker. You can put your toe in, you can put your foot in your leg in, but if you really want to find this authentic way of living, it's work, and you're proof that there's a lot of incredible power and creative force that comes out of this transformation. So thanks for sharing that story.
Oh, you're so welcome. And what's really beautiful, the Native American understanding is our gifts are born through our wounds, not in spite of them. The gift is born through the wound. Oftentimes it is by accessing and diving into our deepest woundedness we find our giftedness, that gift that sustains us through that dark night of the soul. So I just wanted to add that because it's so counter to our culture, which is trying to medicate and deny and separate us from our woundedness, when it's actually our blessing and transformation.
Dr. DeMaria, that's going to be another thing I'm going to go home and share with my kids. And listeners, if you're parents, remember, gifts are born through our wounds. Life isn't supposed to be easy because otherwise we would never learn, right? No mistakes.
All lessons. And I never remember Jesus saying, "Blessed are the comfortable."
I love it. Okay, well, the hour has completely flown by. So again, let's just promise each other that this is the beginning. And listeners, you can find for yourself and your beginning, maybe your next steps, you can find tons of information at makewellnessfun.com/de-stress. And again, there's going to be show notes, there's going to be links, there's going to be YouTube channels, there's going to be 7-minute meditation challenges. See, I need to take a deep breath. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being with us, and let's be in touch.
Thank you for having me, Kathryn. God bless you and all the listeners out there, and be well.